Call to order. This time on that, Mr. Little, go ahead and go.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask that you be with us tonight to guide and strengthen us to make all the sound decisions for these citizens in this community. I ask you to be with all the loved ones. I think we lost a girl, 29, from Blacksburg. I can't remember her name, but God be with that family and the grieving that has stricken upon them. I ask this in all your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Next, we'll have roll call.
Mike Folks.
Here.
Tracy McDaniel.
Here.
Tim Spencer.
Here.
Quay Little.
Here.
Lima Dawkins.
Here.
David Smith.
Here.
Elliot Hughes.
Here. We'll have a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Any further discussion about the agenda? If not, all in favor, please indicate so now. Next, I need approval of the minutes for regular meeting 4/19/2021.
So moved.
Second.
For this motion, and any further discussion about the minutes? If not, all in favor, please indicate so now. Next, I need approval of the claims, Cherokee County, in the amount of $377,919.10.
So moved.
Second.
This motion is second. Any further discussion about the bills? If not, all in favor, please indicate so now. Next, we have the proclamations. Mr. Bratton will take care of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask Sheriff Mueller if he will come up. We've got 3 proclamations tonight. The first we're going to do is a proclamation for National Peace Officers Memorial Week, which is Sunday, May the 9th through Saturday, May the 15th. To honor and remember our national law enforcement officers, whereas there are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the law enforcement community in Cherokee County. And whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 16,000 injuries and 295 deaths in the line of duty. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 23,295 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty. And whereas May the 9th through May the 15th, 2021 is National Police Week, and Saturday, May the 15th, 2021 is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. And whereas in accordance with a joint resolution by the United States Congress, which was approved on October 1st, 1962, the President of the United States is authorized and requested to designate May the 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week it falls as Police Week. And whereas Cherokee County joins in the commemoration of all fallen officers and commends all law enforcement officers for their courageous and steadfast service to the nation and to Cherokee Counny. Now therefore, Cherokee County Council, in tribute to the memory of our state and nation's fallen law enforcement officers, and as an expression of public sorrow, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day. And this is signed by County Council Chairman Tim Spencer.
Yes, sir. Jim?
This is Jenna Reese. She's the head of operations for Cherokee County EMS. This is a proclamation for National Emergency Medical Services Week, which is May 16th through 22nd. Whereas May 16th through 22nd is a designated week established by presidential proclamation in 1973 and is an annual celebration to recognize and appreciate emergency medical services provided by paramedics and EMTs in communities across our nation. And whereas this year's National EMS Week presents a timely opportunity for communities to give special thanks and gratitude to all EMS practitioners who have been and continue to serve on the front lines of our nation's war on the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas EMS practitioners are responding to calls for help for patients with suspected or positively diagnosed coronavirus, in addition to 911 calls for patients with severe injuries and illnesses. And whereas in serving their patients nationwide, thousands of EMS practitioners have contracted COVID-19 and even more have had to self-quarantine away from their families after having been exposed to the coronavirus. And whereas EMS is a vital element of our nation's healthcare, public health, and public safety concerns, every day, 24/7, in every community, EMS responds to patient calls for help when they have had an accident or are experiencing a medical emergency. EMS is an integral component of our nation's ability to respond to public health crisis. And whereas Cherokee County owes a great debt of gratitude to our paramedics and EMTs who are serving on the front lines of the coronavirus response, now therefore be it resolved that Cherokee County Council request the help of all citizens of Cherokee County in recognizing the incredible courage, selflessness, and heroic efforts of our paramedics and EMTs this EMS week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021, and to pause and give thanks for all they do in Cherokee County providing for our public health and safety. And again, that's signed by Chairman Tim Spencer. And then finally, Mr. Williams, and tell me your last name, guess Miller.
Miller.
And Ms. Miller there with Department of Mental Health. Ask y'all to come up. This is proclamation for Mental Health Month, which is in May. Whereas there is a proven connection between good mental health and overall personal health, with mental illness affecting almost every family in America. And whereas people with mental illness recover if given the necessary services and support in their communities, and whereas millions of adults and children are disabled by mental illnesses every year, and whereas only 1 out of 2 people with a serious form of mental illness seek treatment for his or her mental illness, stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help. And whereas research shows that the most effective way to reduce stigma is through personal contact with someone with a mental illness, and whereas good mental health is critical to the well-being of our families, communities, schools, and businesses, and whereas greater public awareness about mental illness can change negative attitudes and behaviors toward people with mental illnesses, now therefore Cherokee County Council, on behalf of Cherokee County, South Carolina, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Mental Health Month. As Chairman of County Council, I also call upon Cherokee County citizens, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommend our community to increasing awareness and understanding of all mental illness, reducing stigma and discrimination, and promoting appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses. That's signed by Chairman Tim Spencer.
I didn't think about this first.
That's all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Next, we have the public hearing of order 2021-08. This is providing for insurance sale of not exceeding $11 million, aggregate principal amount of general obligation improvement bonds, Cherokee County, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto. The floor is open at this time. If there's someone here to speak on this public hearing. If not, the floor is closed. Next, we have a request to Treasurer Ryan Thomas for approval of the lockbox system. If you would, Mr. Thomas, come forward.
Good evening, gentlemen. I come for you this evening to inform you of a new payment collection process that will benefit Cherokee County. This collection process will only affect mail-in payments. In last week's edition of the Gackel Ledger, an article was published in regard to South Carolina growing by double digits for the 5th time in the last 5 decades. In last Wednesday's, sorry. While researching this, since 2018, Cherokee County has almost 3,000 new taxpayers, and with all the new development we have coming on in this great county, that number will double soon. In order for us to keep the county growth, my office needs to get with the line and get in line with what other counties are doing to be proactive before it gets too late. To keep my office running at such an efficient rate, I've devised a plan to not only provide more efficiency in the timing of mail-in taxes being paid, but at no cost to the county. My implementation is a thing called Lockbox. Lockbox is a system designed to take all the mail out of my office and be processed in Atlanta. Those are things, yes, you guys will be getting questions, why is my Cherokee County bill going to Atlanta? That's a legit thing. Many of you know that if there's a particular power company in Cherokee County that you pay to, you probably are doing this thing right now and you don't even realize it, but it's already implemented in Cherokee County in different entities. After numerous meetings with banks and treasurers around the upstate, the mail hub of Atlanta will be vital for us in the next 5 years. Since our mail will be going directly to Atlanta to be processed by our bank's processing center, the tax bills will be marked paid the day of instead of 1, 2, or 3 weeks later like they are now. The volume of mail payments to my office keeps us working after hours and weekends during real estate season, and it takes 3 other offices to help us open or process our volume of mail. I'm saying this because the governor of South Carolina is more than likely going to sign a bill very soon. If not this year, it will definitely be next year, that will increase the amount of mail in my office already receives ×4. When this happens, we need to be prepared, and with my system, with Lockbox being a necessary tool, we can benefit from it because the tax bills are marked paid the day they're received. While Lockbox processing our mail, my staff and I can more effectively answer phone calls, foot traffic, and quicker apportionments to the entities. And third of all, like I said before, there's no cost to the county. There will be monthly fees from our bank and our system provider. However, I'll be passing these fees to our entities that we collect taxes for and at a very minimal cost. Mr. Bratton, please, I've got a quick visual to show how we're going to do this. Guys, these are real numbers based off December's tax collections. Entity A is a real entity that we pay our tax apportionments to. As you see, we collected $1.3 million for this one particular entity. Therefore, the Lockbox share that month will be $373. In August, that same entity, their Lockbox is $260. That's a bigger entity that we pay to who would not even miss this money that we're sending. Okay, entity B is a lower entity. It's obviously one of our volunteer fire departments. And as you see, in December, we collected $14,000 for them. Their bill will only be $5. Again, in August 2021, we collected $685 for them. Their bill is only $3. So if you ever get asked, when things that go, everything's good to go, why are we paying for this? How are we paying for this? It's at a very, very minimal cost to the entities that we're paying to with our apportionments. I've spoken with our county administrator, county attorney, county auditor, and multiple treasurers around the state. And I just want to inform you guys that I'm not doing this to chase technology. After a state treasurers and auditors meeting that we had in February, I just brought the Lockbox I did because it came from a police employee that we did this on, and we almost got laughed at because we're the only county in Cherokee County that does not do at least one part of Lockbox. We're the only one. We're not utilizing the system. That's wonderful, especially for the things that are coming down the pipe. Again, this is just an informative presentation. I'm going to give you all a heads up on. Like I said, it's taking out this thing. Yes, you're getting questions. Why is our Cherokee County going to an Atlanta PO box? Which we have 2 PO boxes there. They get checked 7 times a day. Therefore, your mail will be billed. If your mail hits that process in place that day, it will be in our system by the time I leave my office that day. The bills will be legitimate, of course. With an Atlanta address, they will be legitimate. Lockbox will be heavily advertised once this thing is a go. And also, once again, I just want everybody to know this only affects our mail-in payments. I know there's some representatives here tonight from some of the entities that will be seeing this fee coming out every month, and it's probably not a popular decision, but even though it's minimal, it's still not the popular choice to ever get feed anything. But I want them to know by doing this, and getting this mail order system, it allows me and my girls to get a lot of other things done. Therefore, this is the first month of April, will be the first time ever, and I'm going back as far as I can possibly go, that these entities are receiving motor carrier fee in lieu, BMW fee in lieu, Spartanburg apportionment, merchant's inventory, homestead, manufacturer's fee in lieu, and property value exemptions in the same month. That's never happened before, and it's thank goodness to have an efficient office, and the only way to maintain this office is to keep doing what we're doing now, and that's looking towards the future. If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything.
Any discussion for Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Thomas, I'm listening to what you're saying, but what actually is this?
It's a process of all of our mailing, and payments will go straight to Atlanta from now on.
Are they gonna open our?
They open our mail, they process
they're
our
gonna
mail.
process
Because our bank runs, Wells Fargo runs that processing center, they mark it paid as soon as they get it.
Okay, so this takes out, is this just for taxes?
This is just for taxes, yes, sir.
This is gonna be for car tax, anything mailed in?
Car, vehicle, watercraft, and real estate, yes,
And
sir.
this fee's gonna be on this tax bill?
Every month, they're going to send us a bill, and I'm going to, in turn, when I send their apportionment checks out, with my calculations I'm gonna do on this, I'm gonna bill back the entity, so therefore the county's not paying a dime.
Mr. Little, the taxpayer does not pay the fee.
That's what I.
That's your question. No, sir. The taxpayer does not pay the fee. The fee is charged by Wells Fargo, and it's fractions of cent per check. And that fee is apportioned out based on what has been collected to the entities that the treasurer collects for. So the volunteer departments, the school district, the city, et cetera, those entities pay their share.
There won't be another line item fee on this.
No, sir, not at all. That is not passed on to the taxpayers of Cherokee County. Sorry, Ryan. I just-
I'm sorry for not, I'm sorry.
Mr. Ron, you said we're the only county in the state that doesn't utilize this system at all?
Yes, sir. There's a different forms of lockouts, and we're the only county that does not utilize at least one part of it. Yes, sir. That's correct.
So this will free you up year round or just during the tax?
This will free us up a lot. There's something coming in the pipe that said that's on the governor's desk right now, and we anticipate he's going to sign it. All the small counties are against it. Obviously, I'm against it. That's to allow alternate ways to make your payments and more options to pay. And with the amount of mail we're doing already, they're about to multiply that times 4 if this bill passes. And that's why I'm saying we want to be proactive and go ahead and have a system in place for when this does come. If it's not this year, it's going to be next for sure. We'll have a plan in order.
Is there any issues that you've seen that any kind of counties have run into using this?
No, sir. Everybody I talked to, on our SCAT talk with our state treasurer's meeting, our state auditor's meeting, everybody loves it. They said it was the best thing. They literally laughed at me when they found out we were not already doing this. They couldn't believe a small town like us, we're not already doing at least one part of it. Some just do vehicles, some do watercraft. I say, hey, if we're going for it, let's do all three. It's minimal. We're talking pennies on the dollar when it comes to what we're going to feed our entities back.
How many pieces of mail is this gonna save you from having to open through your office? You don't have that number?
Well, we got 60,000 taxpayers, Mr. Smith. Yeah, it's going to be quite a bit. And they allow it, just like I said, if this bill does pass, that's going to be 4 times the amount of that for real estate taxes. And so we're already getting on thousands and thousands, and it's going to be multiplied by 4 soon. And it's more than likely probably going to happen.
Mr. Smith, I can tell you that during December and January, there are trays like this that are brought in daily, from multiple trays that are brought in daily from the Postal Service, and we send people from several different departments to help process mail, so all of that will go away. It'll just make the operation much more efficient.
Will there be any kind of change of address, or since you were saying P.O. Box?
It will say, much like a lot of doctor's offices and hospitals utilize it now, so your tax bill that comes from the treasurer on the part that you return, it will say it's going to Atlanta.
Ooh.
So that's, yeah, I knew you didn't hear that or else you would have said something.
Oh, I'm saying something now.
But yeah, it'll be going to Atlanta or Charlotte. That's where their processing
Well,
centers
that's
are.
gonna be very educational for you, Mr. Ryan, to explain that to the citizens
Yes, sir.
of this community.
And we do.
They're gonna be very upset about that.
Yes, sir. And the good thing about it is Merv has the option to make a bill. He can put that on the bill. Hey, this is coming in so and such month. There's so much stuff we can put on the bill. Let the taxpayers know this is coming. We're obviously going to advertise at Ledger, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be known about it. Like I said, I think it's like 67% of the Cherokee County residents pay a particular power company in this county, and they already know about it. They're doing the same thing there. It's their.
So when are you implementing this? Starting when?
Our goal is with July's vehicle bills. Yes, sir. That's our goal.
This is a request, what the pleasure of council.
Mr. Chairman, it's actually not a request. Mr. Thomas is within his rights. He's just informing the council.
Information there.
Yes, sir. He's just informing.
Yes, sir. Just in case you were a good question, why is my Cherokee County medical from
Oh,
Atlanta?
it's coming, Ryan.
That's why I wanted to come in front of you guys and let you all know about it.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Thomas.
so much, everyone.
Next, we have the presentation of payment assessment, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask Cole and Kevin if y'all want, Cole, if you want to come up and, in case there's questions. As you all remember, a couple of months ago, you all authorized us to enter into an agreement with KCI to conduct a Cherokee County pavement assessment. And these guys from KCI went out and assessed every county road. And what I've got to show you all tonight is the results of that assessment. Give me just a minute. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. I guess over here would be better to look at. What you see is every county road, and it's color coded for ease of looking at it. Blue is as good as you get, and red is as bad as you get. So what this view right here shows you is that we have 309 segments of the 1,186 that they assessed are in poor condition. The purple would be bad or not a little bit better than poor, and there's 147 segments. There's 203 that are average, 254 that are pretty good, and then blue is excellent. There's 273 segments of roads. Keep in mind what they tried to do was half-mile segments, and some roads aren't half-mile, so therefore you got a number of segments. On average, the average score, and between a 71 and an 80, if you want to say grades are basically a C, our roads average about 71.9 is about the average of all of our roads. A little bit, barely a C, yes, sir. So what I'm going to do right here is show you and zoom in a little bit on some roads. And I'm not picking on anybody, but I am going to pick on Blacksburg here, Mr. McDaniel.
They got a lot of blue.
They do, but he's also got a lot of roads over there. So if I pick a road right here, and I don't even know what road this is Carroll Drive in Blacksburg. It's green. So it tells us how long that road is, the roadway width, whether there's a center line, which most county roads there is none, there's not an edge line. It has the scoring, and I will provide you all with a guide on that scoring. The overall score down here at the bottom on this particular road is an 89. So that road is in what I would call a B shape, and then we can click right here and we can see a picture of that road. And it shows us that's a good representation of what that particular road looks like. But right here is these again are the other county roads. I don't know how to zoom out.
You try to look at Ellis Ferry and like this.
Ellis Ferry is a state road, Mr. Chairman. These are only county
And they don't do
roads.
state roads, does it?
What are we talking about?
Well, yeah.
Look at mine. Everyone burns. I want all the money. The whole thing's a regret. You're good. You're in the middle of the city.
The worst, well,
All yours is state.
They're terrible.
if you look at the map, the highest red percentage it looks to me like is in Macedonia. And there's just, it just is.
Webpage.
Steve, if you wanna go to that other application, you can go down to the bottom, no, not the dashboard, go to the web application. Go down to the bottom to the
That's
left
all mine.
there. Come right there where it says filter, options over to the right, filter. You go up there and.
So while he's going through this, I'll kind of update y'all kind of where it was at. I think Kevin and I came in here and met with you guys in February, I think it was. Kind of got the go ahead on this. We started March collecting all the list of roads of all the county roads. So had some issues with that. There's some discrepancies between county records and state records and some of the city stuff in terms of exactly what portions of the road is the state and which portions the county and that sort of thing. So we've done the best we can based on what we've kind of went through. Since it's been finalized, we got about 98, 99% of them should be accurate. Not saying it's 100%, there's 1,180 segments. So we feel pretty good about what we've got so far. We do know there's a few that we've got to get added back. In terms of the overall grade, we do have, it is in the 70 range. Honestly, that's a little better than what we thought. What we've talked to Mr. Bratton about is if you address some of those red roads, the big swing from red to blue, if you get them good, is gonna make that number go a long way. So hopefully with some monies that he's got already in the pipeline, if we address some of those areas, I think up front you're gonna see a decent movement of those type of roads. A couple other things that's been brought out, you'll see a lot of the roads around the 85 corridor are really in rough shape. I'm sure y'all were either listened in or somebody may have attended the public hearing meeting with DOT about 3 weeks ago that has talked about some additional funding may be put up on along that corridor to bring some of those roads back up. It's been,
I mean, look right here, is along what Cole's talking about is right here.
Back in my district.
I mean, right here, so all these have turned red, and I don't know that they've turned because of the widening, but they are red now.
yeah. And that's just it. When there's wrecks on the interstate, people immediately hit those frontage roads and those detour routes. So, Leland Colvin, the Deputy Secretary of Engineering, talked about some additional monies maybe coming out of this to fix those sections. Now, whether it'll be state roads or county roads, that'll be the interesting part for that to be kind of determined. I've talked with the fellow that was in here with us last time who's done these throughout Georgia and Florida. He wasn't too surprised by what we got in terms of the area of Macedonia being majority of your red roads. Some of that is due to that being further away from town, whether those selections in the past have been less traveled roads or whatever. Obviously, all that comes into effect when you're picking these. But this is what we've got so far. I think this is a good tool for y'all to use going forward in terms of selection. Obviously, if there's anything else that y'all would like for us to do above and beyond this, we would be more than willing to.
How often is it updated?
Well, this is a one-time shot right
One
now.
time, but I mean, when do you go in there and color it blue or?
Yeah, if we do, we will have the rights to go in, if we go in and resurface a road, which we've got money available in the CTC right now that we've been waiting on this tool. And so we will have the rights to go in and upgrade that road, yes, sir. One thing I want to point out, and is like right here, and I don't even know what road this particular, this is Green River Road.
Kind of in Quay's district, that all in Quay's district.
Yes, they're all in my district.
So
red.
That's mine right there.
There's certain roads that part of the road is one color and part of it's another. Keep in mind, because they did half mile segments. So what that will allow us to do is something that a lot of times we either pave a road or we don't. So that will allow us to make some decisions as roads turn yellow. I hope that we can start getting into doing some crack sealing like they do on the state side, something we don't do. We need to look at chip seal, which is way more than half the cost of paving, but this tool will allow us to make some strategic decisions moving forward.
Speaking of that, how does this compare to what the list you had?
We haven't done that yet, Mr. I just got this Friday afternoon.
Okay. I'd like to know that
Okay,
comparison.
well, that's what, I'm gonna bring that to you all to let you know, because I wanna use this tool to
Absolutely.
determine what $1 million, how we spend the money that we're getting from CTC.
Eliminates us just shooting in the dark, just picking stuff.
And it's not about just us riding around looking at it. I mean, and this gives us
I just want to know if how many you had on your list were red, or what color they were.
and I will let you know that.
That'd be good.
Kevin,
That was our roads and bridges supervisor list, Mr.
on some of these roads, Kevin, are red, could they be sealed like Mr. Bright was saying and bring it back up to standard?
The red roads are gonna be hard to do just a sealing on. You can probably do some pavement overlays with some spot patching in some areas, and possibly do that. Reds would be hard, some of the yellows, the purples and the yellows, you could probably do a little shifting in that area with some of that. One thing I would like to bring up along with what Mr. Bratton just said, I wouldn't do away with the colors that's on this coloring system here. What I would do is create an additional layer that is newly paved roads. Because if you go back and do another assessment in 3 or 4 years, that allows you to say, hey, we are improving our system. If you go in there and just change it from this year from a red to the best color we got that's here, that it's improved, that's giving a false information that the system's getting better just over the paving of a few roads. What you need to look at is it as the whole system grows. But tracking which roads have been paved in this system between now and the next assessment, would be a way to help narrow down and start making that improvement. But just a wholesale by the road change kind of defeats the purpose of what the system does.
And guys, I want to show you, if you'll look on your screen, this is a red road. You'll see this blocking over here. We can't crack seal that. That's beyond repair. So at this point, we got to decide whether or not we resurface it, or whether we got a base problem and we need to go down to the base, because that's been some of the problems that we've seen. Is if you pave over a road and don't have a good base, then we might be back in there 5 years from now, we got the same problem. So this is an example of a red road where you've got rutting, you've got significant amount of blocking all the way down it.
If you look in the rating system, he's gonna provide to y'all later. Your best bet for crack seals and chip seals is just to seal that water out, keeping it out of your subgrade, is in your yellow roads and some of your purple roads that's got the block cracking in there. And what that is it's just the asphalt's either old or something's going on. It's not a subgrade failure yet, but those cracks allowing the water to seep down in and the loads running across it will cause the subgrade to fail eventually. So that crack seal or that chip seal will go in there and seal that off and save your subgrade. And it may not bring it up to a blue, but it may keep it as a yellow for 5 or 8 years until you got time to circle back to it, as opposed to that yellow being the red next year if it goes on unused. That's the best way. We've talked to Mr. Bradford about some of the ways and kind of how we've done it with the state and with the other states. I know chip seal is not a popular thing around just because that's just the way it was before, but it's a cheap way to seal out all the cracks and to get you a new surface with some friction on it so that you don't have necessarily the sliding and skidding and that sort of thing.
What I've done right here, guys, is I've turned off everything except for the red roads. So what you see there is the areas where, that is all the red roads in the county. And when I went and looked at that today, just doing some quick math, I think I came up with about 80 miles of red roads. When I dropped it into a spreadsheet and divided the total feet by 5240. So I come up with about 80 miles of roads.
Mr. Bratton, I know many of these roads are single lane roads, or some of them are at least. You don't have any estimate as to what 80 miles of these roads would cost if you had the money to pay them all at one
Oh,
time.
what's a mile cost if you just research it?
Research it now, 2-inch overlay.
Don't give me that state price either. We can do a whole lot better than
Okay.
state.
I was gonna say.
Don't give me that 800,000
Yeah,
miles.
that doesn't mean no. Asphalt's running about $40 a ton. Shit, 20 feet. That's some big numbers. Yeah.
How many mil, I mean,
Yeah,
15, 20 million, 20, 30 million?
probably getting into that.
I think it's at least, I think you 300 to 400,000 miles, but we could probably get it for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you're 24 to 30, 32, 35 million, something like that. Now, that, a lot of them are, that's for a 2-lane road, what we saw the last time we did it, Mr. McDaniel.
Well, it's still safe to say we're at least 10 to 15 million that we need right now to pave our worst roads.
Oh, no doubt.
10 to 15 million, so.
And the other side of that too is if you do some full depth patching, I'm not saying every one of these roads, but that picture he showed earlier with that white fence in that area all tore up down through there. The rest of that road didn't look in that bad shape. If you full depth patch that section, 6 foot wide, 200 foot long, I don't know how much the rest of the road looks like that, but that's an area where full depth patching, you can put in just that piece without replacing the whole road. And then if you go back with like a chip seal or something to seal off the small pieces, is a way to really maximize your funds and get everything back to a decent rideability. I will say that what we've seen in doing this assessment, and you local guys, this is no surprise to you, some of these are, I don't want to say glorified driveways, some of them are driveways. They got 1 or 2 people lives one end of them. They were paved at one point. We didn't do any of the gravel roads at Mr. Bratton's request, but some of these aren't far off of it. How you want to address that and the funds available, that's definitely something else that probably be considered. But there was a fair number of those type of roads.
What we're gonna do, like they said, this is about 95 to 98% complete. So they still got a few little things that they're tweaking, as they go. I just spot checked a couple things the other day with Kevin and Cole in the office, but, once they get this thing fully operational, what I'll do is provide y'all with some guidance on how the ratings work and how the scoring works. And then what I would like to do is give each of you this link to this particular service so that you all can look and see, or however you want to handle it. But I just wanted you all to see what they've got. And again, it is majority of the way complete, and they knew that we had a paving program that we gotten $1 million from the CTC and that we needed to move forward. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and get this to y'all. And again, Mr. Little, I'll be comparing it to the list that was provided earlier.
Well,
I looked at one road and it was purple.
Well, I thought we were gonna put this on our website so people could see it.
No, sir, I hadn't planned on putting it out to the public. It's a tool for us internally. I mean, I had not planned on putting it out to the public. It's for us for decision-making purposes.
I thought that was the whole point, to put it
I
out
know
to
it's
the
not.
public.
Point for, I'm not sure what your point was, Mr. Little. My point was to give us a tool from a third-party review as to how we make decisions on what we need to do with the roads. My concern is, if we've got $25 million worth of paving, if somebody's looking at their road and that road stays red for a long, we've only got so much money. So we can only do so much at a time. And the question then becomes, well, how does one road get prioritized over another? So that was my thoughts. But again, if y'all want to put it out, that's up to you guys. We can turn it on as a layer.
It is what it is. I mean, I don't think we're hiding nothing. This just explains our poor positioning in regards to getting them fixed, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's out there and available for you guys as you get questions, but that's certainly something that we can talk
That's
about.
yeah, we'll talk about it later. I thought we were doing that. That's fine.
Any more discussion? No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an action item, this is the Thorn Creek Subdivision Phase 2. Right?
Mr. Chairman, Thorn Creek Subdivision is a subdivision that's on, is it Baxter Road? It runs behind, what's the road that runs behind QT? Lemons Lane, I'm sorry. Baxter Road was right off of that, Lemons Lane. Thorn Creek is already there, significant number of houses already been constructed and sold. They did that subdivision in phases. You all have already taken in the first part of that road, and the request that is before you all tonight is to approve the remaining portion of that road into the county system. It has been constructed to county standards. We proof-rolled it and so forth, so it is up to standards. And I'm asking you all to accept that into our system. It is just short of 0.3 of a mile, is 0.28. There's 32 houses on that particular portion. And I'll ask for you all to approve taking that into our system.
So moved.
Second. Heard this motion, second, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please indicate with your hand. Next, we have the executive session pursuant to 2 matters. Mr. Michaels.
Mr. Chairman, motion would be in order to go into executive session for 2 matters pursuant to section 3470A1 for the discussion of a personnel matter in the administration department, and pursuant to section 3470A2 for the discussion of negotiations incident to a proposed contractual matter.
You've heard this request, are there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Heard this motion in a second, all in favor of going into executive session, please identify yourself. We're gonna take a short recess. to order. Mr. Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion would be in order to return to regular session from executive session. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no action was taken in executive session.
Heard this request, are there a motion? So moved. Second. Heard this motion and second, all in favor of returning to regular session, please identify by show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Mathis.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to request, based on information discussed in executive session, that council authorize me to enter into an intergovernmental agreement for sewer line installation to service a portion of the upstate corporate park between Cherokee County and the Gaffney Board of Public Works.
So moved. Second.
Heard this motion second, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Bryden. Next, Mr. Bryden is going to read the ordinances.
First up, we have third reading of ordinance number 2021-05, providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $11 million aggregate principal amount of general obligation improvement bonds of Cherokee County, South Carolina, and other matters relating thereto.
You've heard this third reading, or there motion?
So moved.
Second. Heard this motion and second, any further discussion about this third reading? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands.
Okay, I just need to say that. Okay, this next reading, second reading of ordinance number 2021-06 will be by title only. It's authorizing the development of a jointly owned and operated industrial/business park in conjunction with Spartanburg County, such industrial/business park to be geographically located in Cherokee County and established pursuant to section 41170 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina, 1976, as amended, to provide for a written agreement with Spartanburg County to provide for the expenses of the park, the percentage of revenue application, the distribution of fee in lieu of ad valorem taxation, and other matters relating thereto.
Heard this second reading, or there motion?
So moved. Second.
Heard this motion and second, any further discussion on this second reading? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands.
Next item, we have second reading of ordinance number 2021-07, also by title only, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax and incentive agreement by and between Cherokee County, South Carolina, and a company known to the county as Project Thunder, acting for itself, one or more affiliates, and/or other project sponsors, pursuant to which the county shall covenant to accept certain negotiated fees in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to the establishment and/or expansion of certain facilities in the county. The benefits of a multi-county industrial park to be made available to the company and the project, certain special source revenue credits in connection with the project, and other matters relating thereto.
So moved.
Second.
Heard this motion and second, any further discussion about this second reading? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands.
And finally, we have second reading of ordinance number 2021-08, the proposed sale of county property.
Heard this second reading, or there motion?
So moved. Second.
Heard this motion and second, any further discussion on this second reading? If not, all in favor, please indicate by show of hands. Next, we'll hear from our attorney, Jim Mathis.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Next, we'll hear from Administrator Steve Batt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that, as you all know, it seems like we've been talking about this community cleanup day forever. We got rained out on April the 24th. We have had a rain date built in of May the 8th. That's this Saturday. So I want to encourage you, maybe if you haven't talked to Sierra lately about what she's got the spare office in our suite up there is full of supplies. She has worked tirelessly on getting this up and running. A couple of we've had some people drop out when the date changed. It just affected some things, but we still have a ton of participation. We're real pleased about what we're seeing. So just be in touch with Sierra. One thing I want to mention to you is Doris's daughter Wanda actually got out, her and her family this weekend, and cleaned up Gaston Shoals Road. I think that's in your district, Mr. Smith. I got the weight today on what the trash she picked up was 1,760 pounds. There was car parts. That does not include the 80 tires that were on that road. 80. So there were 80 tires there. But there were car parts, there was all kinds of things. We had to send a Bobcat out with our public works guys to pick up all the trash on that road. So, and I certainly thank Wanda and her family's efforts to just make a big difference on that road. So hopefully we'll have some big numbers like that for y'all coming up.
How long was that road, Doris?
How long is that?
It's not long at all.
It's not long. It's a dead road. Probably maybe a little longer than half a mile.
It changed it from red to blue. Yeah.
Next item is the budget update. I think all of you got the budget book with kind of all the requests in it. I'm just going to go over with you all the memorandum that I sent as an attachment to that document. Johnny and I have been working for weeks on this document, and still got some question marks out there. I think we're supposed to, is it tomorrow we'll get census numbers? May 4th?
Yeah.
I believe tomorrow we'll get our census numbers, so as soon as I see those, I'll be getting those out to you all. But hopefully then that'll help us have some more information from what we need. Some of the things that are good news is in Columbia, they are fully funding the local government fund. That's been approved by both the House and the Senate. And they're actually going back and making up for the amount that they did not increase last year because they operated under a continuing resolution. So that's good news, and we've certainly got that built into the budget. Within this document, you've got all the county requests on a line item basis. You've also got the personnel requests that were submitted. And so I hope as you all look at it, and I know you all know that it's a tough job turning down a lot of these requests. We can't grant everything. We just don't have the money for it, but we make do with what we have. Currently on the general fund side, the budget is out of balance by $553,338. That's where it's at right now, and Johnny and I are still fine tuning some things, so there may be some more that we can trim, or it may actually add to that. We're still getting information in. We just got information in on one of the items I'll mention in a minute. One of the things I built in is a recommendation of a 75-cent cost of living increase in the budget across the board. That is a per hour increase, 75 cents per hour for all county employees. Total cost of that is approximately $568,000. And let me give you my rationale as to why we're approaching it that way. For years, we've heard that we have a pay problem for a lot of our lower end folks. And now we're hearing the possibilities of a $15 minimum wage being talked about and possibly become a reality. Once that started making its way around and looked like it might happen, we started looking. We have 113 employees that were making below the $15 minimum wage, or below a $15 wage. If we do a 75-cent increase, that take care of 63 of those folks. Plus, it increases everybody by 75 cents across the spectrum. If you're one of the guys who are a collector on our trash trucks, and some of the folks who are in that pay range, it's about a 6 or 7% pay increase for you. If you're in the $30,000 range, then you're talking approximately a 5% pay increase. And that, of course, that amount decreases as you go up the spectrum of our pay. So that's what's in there. We felt like this was the year to do it that way, to kind of take care of some of those folks who are on the lower paid part of the county's pay scale. And that's up for you all to discuss as we go forward, but that's what's currently budgeted in this budget. The budget includes the longevity pay program as it was changed last year, which is a flat amount based on the number of years you've been here. That is included. There's a 2.6% employer health insurance premium increase that was approved by PIBA. We were just made aware of that last week. We've been told it was going to be 0.7, and actually it went up slightly more than that by the time they were finished. Also this year, based on claims, we have a load factor. It's the first time in many years that we've had that. But I think I'm correct that Renee called, and I think that's pretty much across the board. Is that right? Statewide because of COVID. So there's an additional 1.5% added on because of that. We have an increase in our tort insurance. That's costing about $46,000 more. Last year, the state suspended the 1% increase that they put in place about 4 years ago that they are passing on to employers for the retirement contribution as one of the ways that they're trying to quote unquote fix the retirement system, which was to increase the amount that employers put in. I think this year we'll go to, is it 16.56 on the state retirement, and how much is it on?
19.24.
19.24 on police retirement that the county puts in, and it's 9% for the employees, and slightly more than that, 9.25 for law enforcement. That's a big bump on ours. So that's about $100,000. There's only one new position that I've got in the budget right now, and that's in the building inspection department. As you recall, I asked for a part-time person in that office last year, but due to the amount of construction that's happening in the county, and you all see it in the amount of construction that's been projected, and not only residential, but also commercial and industrial, as these guys behind me continue to do their job, the demands on that office are tremendous, and those guys are stretched thin. We currently have 2 inspectors, and then we have Dale, who's our building official, and he's the only one currently who can do commercial, so he's stretched thin for many reasons. But I've got that built into the budget at a total cost of $45,140. That's fringe, salary and fringe. And what that person would do was be a floater. They would be in the office some to help there as those guys are out, but they would also be someone who we hope we can attract who can be an inspector. So that's what we're trying to do there. We received a request from the Cherokee County Fire Chiefs Association asking that you all increase the funding to the local fire departments from $46,500 to $50,000. That is built into the budget. Also keep in mind that as part of the agreement with the Gaffney City Fire Department, that they will now receive the full funding that any volunteer fire department receives. So that's a bump from $15,000 up to $50,000. So that would be a $35,000 increase. Fuel costs are estimated, we've got it budgeted right now at about $82,000 more than what they are this year. As you know, the cost of fuel has gone up dramatically, and so we're having to react as necessary. One of the costs that's included in the budget is for the tax assessor's office. This year coming up is a reassessment year, and we have to purchase a separate package for the assessor's office for reassessment. And that's about approximately $23,000. That's a cost that will come out of the budget next year, but we've got to include it in this year's budget. One small ticket item I just want you to be aware of is the register of deeds. It's got some really old deed books in there that's getting to where you can't even hardly read them. We've done some books in the past, Phyllis told me, but what we're proposing is for $7,500, taking a set of those and getting them basically preserved and restored to where they're usable and legible. We're very concerned about the status of some of them. Mr. Mathis, you probably see a lot of those that are in bad shape. They're just old, so they're decades old. In roads and bridges, I've increased the road maintenance budget by $60,000. I've increased pipe maintenance by $15,000. We are just seeing, as you all saw tonight, road maintenance is, we need to be spending more money. We're somewhat behind there, so I'm proposing those 2 items. And then one of the final items that we've gotten is Spartanburg Community College has asked, they acquired some property back last year. You all actually had to approve for them to take it off the tax rolls on Welchel Road. That will allow them to tie in their campus to where you can then enter it off of Welchel Road as well as off of the frontage road and Highway 11. And they're asking us to help them with that funding. And I think we've gone from, is it 30 to 100? Currently we pay $30,000. We give them $30,000 a year, plus they have a millage. But what we plugged in here is to give them $100,000, so it's actually a $70,000 increase in the budget. So that's the general fund. Those are the big highlights in the general fund. If y'all wanna ask questions on that, or if you want me to keep going to the other two funds that you all approved the budget for, we can do that, and y'all can come back.
On the Welcome Road project, there's no reason why we can't ask the school to help out with that also. They have accountants there too, right?
We could certainly ask for some.
I absolutely believe we should ask.
John, how many pay periods are there in a year? In 26. I thought last year we had 27.
Yeah, that's
Normally it's
I think we
26.
Depends on how it falls.
Yeah, we had a pay period, I think it's in the 31st.
Everything we calculate is on 26.
Right.
Capital fund, what page is that? Number 7. I'm gonna ask y'all to flip to tab 7, tab 7. This is the capital budget. I'm gonna go down these, if y'all don't mind. Hit some of the big ticket items. IT, a lot of things that we do in IT is just, we have to update every so often. And some of those are switches and packet viper and things like that. And those are items that, as we go into the readings and we start doing those things, I can give you a little bit more explanation, or actually Dustin can help me because that's a language that not everybody speaks. But those are items that upon talking to him in that office, that those are kind of must-have items, things that we just need to do for the security of our system and the integrity of our system moving forward. Of course, we've got the payments for the 11 vehicles that we leased some time back. One of the items that's in here that I feel very strongly about, and so do several of our department heads, is the upgrade to a new finance package and personnel package. We currently use QS1, and QS1 is very, very, very good on property taxes and so forth. But I just feel like their system on general ledger and payroll and so forth is lacking. Not a lot of controls there, not a lot of good audit trails. We looked at several packages, and Tyler Technologies is a new accounting and payroll and personnel package that makes us much more efficient. It makes everything paperless. It just helps tremendously with our efficiencies. We can go into that a little bit more, but the total cost of that up front is $83,430. And the one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say is their annual maintenance fees are between $35,000 and $40,000, but that's the cost of doing business. I mean, that's just what it costs to operate a system for 300 and some odd employees. And it puts everything at the fingertips of our department heads. Whereas now they might have to wait 2 days for a PO to come back. They can have a PO within 5 minutes, as long as AP does their part and I do my part. But it has all sorts of controls built in it. And
So just like the system in the school district.
it's the same company that the school district has, but it's a much more scaled down version. Theirs was, that system was about $350,000 and about $120 a year.
But yeah, I can approve POs on the spot.
Correct, and also this would allow us to, our timesheets would be paperless, everything. Coming down the system, I'm just coming down through here, just looking at big ticket items. Sheriff's request for 10 patrol vehicles. What I've got in the budget currently is 7. And those are SUVs, that's all you can get for Ford, they no longer make a sedan. So those are the Explorers.
How many did we get last year?
6.
6?
Yes, sir.
You got
This is one in, one
This is
out,
7.
correct, or do they?
No, we would not be adding to the fleet, that's correct. We take the 7 oldest out. Yes, sir.
Where'd you come up with 7 if we did 6?
Because we were alternating.
Huh?
Before I got here, there was an alternate. They were doing one more every other year.
It used to be 6 and 5.
I don't keep up with it, Mr. Chairman. I'm just be honest in my request. I think we need to do that, 6 and 7.
You just want to get ahead with 10? He wanted 10.
He asked for 10, yes, sir, but he asked for that every year. The detention center, the generator's shot, and that's a very key element down there that we be able to be up and running if the power goes out. We've babied and spent a lot of money to keep the one down there functional. So it's time for us to replace that particular piece of equipment. Also, water control system, that price is actually $72,000, and the sheriff said if we could do 50, he would take 20 something, the difference out of his restricted monies and pay that difference. What that does is it stops, as bad as this is to talk about, an employee from shoving clothes and towels and everything in the toilets and just flooding the cells. After 2 flushes, it won't flush anymore. It shuts the water off. So it is a control that is all tied back to the central control, but it has built-in controls, and that's the whole point of the system. But we spend a ton of money down there on that sort of thing, so that's what that is. Coming on down, 2 trash trucks were requested, and last year we approved and purchased two garbage trucks. Due to some other things in the budget this year, we only included 1.
How are we doing on running trucks right now?
Doing
Has it
great.
been pretty good with
Doing
the 2
great.
new trucks?
Yes, sir, doing great. I don't know of a
Time
time.
new staff in the shop.
I have not sent less than 9 out any day that I'm aware of. If they have, I was not made
So we
aware.
can get by with 1 truck this year?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Oh,
We talked last year about trying to buy 2, and I think that's why Brian put 2. We could always use 2, Mr. McDaniel, but in the interest of the amount of funding that we have available, I cut it to 1. Also, 1,500 roll carts. That's the same price we've been paying for them since they were bid. That company continues to honor that price. Certainly wouldn't go down if we rebid them, so that's still there. And with the number of houses being built, we've got to have those 1,500 carts every year. We go through those like hotcakes. So
We get reimbursed on secondary cars.
secondary carts, $75, yes, sir.
Okay, or any torn up cars.
Our torn up car, we don't get reimbursed. We replace those. We have a repair truck that we send out. We'll put one back together as many times as possible, but if it gets a hole in it or if it just gets to the point where it's just not useful, then we'll replace it.
Mr. Bratton, on the new subdivision, patio subdivisions, are we gonna be furnishing trash pickup, or do
Yes, sir.
they do, so they do want the cans?
Yes, sir. Those be residential structures, so yes, sir.
Yeah, I know they are, but I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
know if they had something in their
No, sir.
restrictions or something to provide dumpsters or something.
No, sir. Not that I've seen. Yeah, we'd love for them to, but no, sir. As of right now, no. The payment on the compactor will be due next year. If y'all recall, we financed that for 3 years. So that's plugged in here. That's the payment, which that compactor is supposed to be, it's actually in Charleston. So hopefully we'll have it on our grounds very soon, just during May. Condensate tanks out at the landfill, they are cracked. We've got them sealed. We paid to have a company come in and actually go down in those, seal them as best we could, but they've got to be replaced. So we've been trying to nurse those along now for about 1.5 years. That's where we are with that.
Steve, that total's different.
I rounded up that price we had,
Okay.
but it was about 1 year old. And then the last 2 were from our local soil, water, and PDD Creek projects for dam maintenance and a couple of little things. So with that particular budget,
Why did you put Welcher Road project under Spartanburg Community College?
we've got it on the general fund side because it's a direct appropriation. I did not pay for that on capital because it wasn't something that we wanted.
Steve, you said we did approve the, for the deeds and the books, right? On the first page, register of deeds.
We ain't approved it, none of it approved it.
Oh, wait, not approved, but,
Consider.
yeah.
She had it there and I said, that's really not a capital item. I moved it to the general fund side.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir, she had it there, really, I will take it off of that line, but that's where she had it, not us.
But to clarify some of this stuff, we're having a workshop Monday, correct?
But that's not related to the budget, Mr. Chair.
Right?
No, sir, that is related to numerous other projects that we've got going, just to, kind of make sure council's got a clear understanding of some of the directions that I'm going down.
We're not discussing this budget.
Not on Monday, no, sir. We're discussing numerous
So
other
I have a
projects.
couple of questions in. I thought we was gonna discuss this.
Well, we will prior to first reading, Mr. Chair. this is not a reading tonight, this is just an update. The reading, first reading will be May 17th, but if you've got a question, we can answer it now.
Well, the only question I have is, everybody in here knows how the world get, if we don't fund these police officers, guys, we ain't gonna have no police officers. 75 cents on the, my folks can tell you he used to be a police officer. I mean, I don't wanna be a county that's defunding the police.
We're not taking nothing away from them.
Well, we ain't taking nothing away from them, but if we don't give them a substantial raise, we don't have a police officer.
Keep in mind, last year we gave a $2,000 increase for certified officers, that when nobody else got anything, Mr. Chairman.
And I've heard that too.
But that only addressed starting officers, it didn't address anything past that. Give me a number on, I mean, just, not for tonight, just give me a number on, and I talked to him about earlier, when we first met today, we paid overtime at 86 hours for a swing shift deputy on the road. That's the 911 operators, they get paid at 80 hours, but a swing shift deputy, his overtime does not start until he goes past 86 hours. Right, and most companies, and Mr. Bratton said that no other intergovernmental agency does it, but typically it's 80 hours. Once you go over 80 hours, that's where your overtime starts, time and a half. And so I'd like to see just the number come back of why we wouldn't pay them starting at when they hit 80 hours. Because it's what we call, I work swing shift now, what we call built-in overtime. The overtime's already in their schedule because they work 12-hour shifts. So when they hit that 80-hour mark, it's gonna put them working 48 hours one week and 36 hours the next week. But I don't know what rotation the sheriff's office runs. We work a crazy one. What do they run, 4-4s or?
It's all over the place. I don't think it's anything consistent.
Can you just, I mean, not for tonight, can you just give us a number of what it would be if we paid the swing shift people starting at 80 hours instead of 86 hours? I did a little rough math there, but it's all based on their hourly rate, what their time and a half is.
It's gonna be a big number. But let me tell you this also, pulled up on your screen right now, is the Fair Labor Standards Act contains specific provisions for public safety employees because they work non-traditional schedules that complicate overtime pay. So just like what we've talked about, most employees, when they hit 40 hours in a week, they get 1.5 times. But the pay period for public safety employees can be as long as 28 days under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so therefore, we're under the 14-day rule, which means that in a 14-day pay period, they're paid overtime for hours over 86 hours instead of 80. That's what the Fair Labor Standards Act allows.
It says we can't do that. I get it. I want to see what the number is, or what it would cost if we paid them at 80. I mean, it said, federal law says we can pay them $7.50 an hour, but we don't do that.
The only thing I'm saying, I'm not only saying it for the police officer, I'm saying it for every county employee. I just don't think 75 cents is enough.
Mr. Chairman, we looked at $1 per hour. $1 per hour for a 40-hour week employee is $2,080 a year. For an office employee is $1,950 a year. That cost is over $700,000.
What will put the base starting salary of a patrolman with the 75 cent? Calculating how many hours he works, everything. I don't want to know. I want to know what the.
You want to just know the salary?
I want to know what it would be if he worked his regular shift with the 75 cent raise at the end of the year. What's his total number?
40,807. Is that right?
Is that comparable to Greenville County?
I would have to look at what Greenville's is.
10 times the people we have.
I would have to look, but 40,000 is the benchmark that I've been looking for. But I will tell you, since we're talking about this,
40,000 what?
807. That's at 86 hours that Mr. Folks is asking, but that's at their 86-hour shift that they work now. Now, that does not include overtime.
But it takes them over 40,000.
Correct. That is including overtime, you said.
No, that's not. They work 86 hours for 4 days.
What did the city just do to give their police officer, with like $4,000 raise?
They're just touching 40.
Yeah.
They're just,
They were behind or something.
they were behind us, and that took them up over 40.
And that goes hand in hand with what I said last year to Mr. Bratton. It's something that's gonna have to be looked at every year. I mean, every other year, every 2 years to see if you're at par. Because your other offices are always moving. It's always gonna be this yo-yo effect of other offices bumping up, officers talking about going over there because they bumped up. It's something you're gonna have to almost look at every 2 years because of this yo-yo and the current culture surrounding law enforcement. And whether they wanna be in law enforcement or whether they wanna be here for the pay.
And in all fairness, I mean, I've talked to several of you about this. We've got the same situation in many of our specialized positions here. Building inspection, we're $10,000 behind on salary.
Right.
I mean,
What I'm saying, I'm not
we're
disputing.
10,000. We're starting somebody off at 29. They're offering somebody off the street 39 in Spartanburg and York and Shelby, and they're all around us. So, and I've tried to do some things throughout the year, but we do have some situations like that. But we're constrained by budget. I mean,
Shouldn't say this, but I'm saying just as blunt as I can. Some of us up here voted to give some money to the school district. I think we need to save that money and put it to our own employees. We have employees here that don't make nothing now. What's the lowest we got? $23,000, $24,000?
$11 an hour. We have a couple of
What
part-time.
would that
employees.
multiply per year in hours?
$22,880.
That's a shame.
How much you said it will be for $1 across
It's
the
over
board?
700,000. Yeah. If you think about it, we got 300 employees, $1 an hour times 2,080, so that's 600 and some odd $1,000 plus fringe on top of that. Probably pushing 8.
But still, yet we only talking about another quarter if we raise them $1.
And that's the hard part, Mr. Chairman, and I'll tell you, I dealt with the same thing at the school district. You talk about we're dealing with 300 employees, and I was at the school district, we gave a dime, we gave a quarter to the school bus drivers, and it cost us $400,000, and it was just the school bus, but it's because of the volume, the number of people we're talking about. But one thing I will say is, in this year, what's being proposed is, if you give 75 cents, if you only do a 3% cost of living or even a 4% cost of living to somebody that makes $15 an hour, they're only getting 60 cents if you do 4%. So you're still at 75 cents doing significantly more than what you would have been doing. Now, for those that make over a certain amount, you're doing less. But what you're trying to do as a council, or what I'm proposing that you do, and you all can do what you want, is you're taking care of those lower paid people to a greater extent than your higher paid people in this year.
And I think it's fair, but in all reality, every one of us know here that our employees is low paid. From the man driving trash truck to the guys that protect our home. And I thought we was giving state money some of this can be used, and I don't want to be saying this, but is that not correct?
No, sir. I mean, we're getting some federal money that you could use, but that would be, I would not recommend it, Mr. Chairman. Here's why. It's non-recurring money.
I understand that.
And we would be deficit spending at that point. If you wanted to give a bonus with that money, there's one time, which you all did give a $700 bonus at the end of the year for COVID, then you could do that. But now, one other thing I'll tell you is we don't have the specifics yet on what we can do with that money that we're receiving from from Washington. It is federal money. But I mean, I'm here to take input from you guys. What I've got in the budget is 75 cents. It's roughly $568,000. It's out of balance right now by $553,000. That's expenses over revenues, and I can tweak it however you guys want to go. We can take some things out that I propose. Some of it we can't take out. It is what it is. The insurance cost and so forth. And one thing I'll tell you is I'm not addressing several needs that the county has in this budget, just because we can't address everything in one year. So there are some things in there that we're not doing that I wish we could. Our departments all have needs. I think you all see the salary or the personnel requests that are in the budget. I've presented those to you all. But that's where we are, and we've done what we thought we could do. We've been very conservative on a lot of our revenues because there's still some questions in there. While I have increased building permits some amount of money, I haven't increased it tremendously because we just don't know. I mean, price of wood going up the way it is, who knows when this housing market's gonna stop. So, just that's an example of some things that we've been very conservative on. Court fines and fees, we're down roughly 50% from last year because of COVID, because there just hasn't been any court. And they've started some court back, but it's still restricted, so I'm still very hesitant to put that in there. Highway Patrol is not writing the number of tickets on our interstate that they were, mainly because they don't have anywhere to pull people over at. Once you're in the chute, you're in the chute. They can't chase you down. So all of those things we've had to weigh out and put in here going forward. So I'll take whatever instructions y'all want me to take away from here. I can give y'all numbers for next time of how much different percentages or different flat fees, flat increases would cost, however you want me to
Is
proceed.
that exact amount for $1 versus 75 cents?
Yes, sir. I believe I've got that somewhere. Yeah. Let's see if I've got it here, Lon. Mr. Dawkins, I'm sorry.
It's gonna be what, 33% more? Basically. $740,000. With 737.78. That's what they're at. Significant.
I just don't think that's gonna be enough. Have y'all not heard from the police officers?
Well, this is what he requested. Everything Mr. Brooks sent back to us had a breakdown on a percentage of $1. Most of it was 72 cents, correct or incorrect?
Yeah, correct. Now,
Okay. Now, there are certain circumstances where some of the senior officers, it doesn't do much for them. But, here's the dilemma, guys. Are we gonna raise the public's taxes to pay salaries? And that's the question that comes to everybody's plate. Now, if that's what y'all want, or we do as a body, that's what happens. But we gotta look at it from, we're the referee between what we can get done or what we get taxed, or we can raise taxes to accommodate more pay. And that's a very, very difficult question in these times. And I mean, I know not everybody's opposed to not raising taxes. Some are, some ain't. But the general consensus, it really is, that's a very tough question that has to be explained to the voters of why I raised your taxes to pay people more money. Well, that's taken from them and given to the county employees. And that's where the balancing is. And that's very, very difficult to address. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I know we have fundamental needs, and when we have a deficit right now of $5.50, if we go to $1, it takes to $7.40. Then, based on our millage, that's probably 5 mills,
not quite.
4 or 5.
4.5.
Well, that's where we're at, and I don't know what we're allowed to raise. I don't know.
That would be pushing the cap.
That would be very much pushing the cap. So that would very much restrict you into doing anything the next year.
The only other option you would have is
The
to
deficit
spend it out
spending.
out of fund balance, which is deficit spending, which means
Which we
next
have
year,
never done.
next year you start the budget in the hole.
We've never done that.
So I didn't hear, I know you're still tweaking numbers and going through the budget for the initial reading. Are you proposing that there might be a millage increase as you see it right now?
I'm sorry, say
I didn't hear that you said, are you proposing there may be a millage increase?
I did not propose anything, Mr. Coates. I just presented it that it's out of balance by $500 and some odd $1,000. At that price, it's about 3.9 mils. A dollar increase, does that have the 1% built into retirement?
I think so, yeah.
Dollar increase would be $769,000.
That's more than that.
That's what I told you. I thought it was pushing 8.
And that would be pushing 5 mils.
Yes, sir. It's about $179,000 per mil. Collectible. And that's a certified millage rate's $188,000 some odd dollars, but not all of that's collectible, so we do only apply certain percentages.
That'll add about 200 more, 200 something more to the deficit.
Which, y'all, in reality, we really don't know. When we see those census numbers, we get a clear indication of what growth we've achieved and what we feel like may be anticipated revenue that Mr. Bratton does not any way, shape, or form put down on this. He is very conservative, and that's a judgment thing on our behalf, whether or not we believe it's coming. And that weighs into my judgment extreme when it comes to balancing a budget, is what I feel like potential growth in revenue will be there, as opposed to what Mr. Bratton sees. Mr. Bratton sees it a whole lot different than I do, and I respect that, and I want that, because that's a very conservative approach. But I have faith sometimes that the money will be there, as opposed to raising taxes, and that's kind of where I stand most of the time.
And Mr. Little, I will always under budget before I'll over budget on revenue. That's a promise.
That's a good move.
If something comes in under, then there's something happened, or we couldn't foresee it. But and I think you're right. Tomorrow we'll know a lot. But also, I don't think we have to talk about what's coming, Mr. Little. It's here. The growth is here. But our issue becomes it is residential. And while as a county, I hope, well, some of us like the growth and some of us don't. I understand that. But we've got a lot to offer. And part of what we offer is a low cost of living. Our taxes are low compared to other counties. And that's why a lot of people want to come here. That's why so many people are from outside. But for every house that comes, house taxes, and this won't be a popular thing for me to say, they don't pay the bills for what they cost. We've heard rumors of some large subdivisions that if they're built, they're going to be, the number of kids in those subdivisions is going to justify the addition of entire schools. And the cost of picking up 1,000 more trash cans is going to add to our cost and so forth. So all of that weighs into what we're doing here.
I was talking in more lines of being low.
Well, but that's where it gets important, is everything we do has got to be centered upon economic development, because that is where the growth comes, and that's where the money comes from, is the businesses. So I was coming back around to that just a little. But anyway, we'll proceed however y'all want. Again, I'm not asking you for a vote tonight. We do not have the ordinance fully prepared yet. But we plan to have first reading on May the 17th, and that can be delayed. We've got 3 meetings in June. I was trying to get a little bit ahead of the curve on this thing, to where we've got a meeting to play with in June if we're still mulling things over. But
Have any of y'all not heard from the police officers that didn't get the 96% last year? they're not happy at all about that.
Well, you county employees as a rule are not happy, Mr. Chairman. And that's not just the law
We
enforcement.
stood up here every year and talk about our county employees not making what they should sufficiently make, and we know that. A year we talk about a quarter raise in between 75 cents and $1.
Well, the last couple of moves we made, Tim, I mean, we gave a $700 COVID bonus, which equates to a pretty good chunk. We didn't give a raise, but we gave to a certain, we didn't even know if we were gonna have enough revenue at that time. We didn't have no one over here understood what we were gonna be faced with at the end of that year. And I hope that this projected is still conservative, but I honestly think the money, I don't know if we could sustain $1. I don't know. I'm willing to entertain that. I was an advocate for the 75 cent because I knew we just had to do something for the employee. I'm with you wholeheartedly. We do. When we take care of their insurance, we do not burden them with that payment. We every time the state goes up in that retirement, we do not burden them. We do everything within our power, but then it becomes a balance. And like I said, with regards to the money and the taxpayers, and that's a tough job, and that's why we took this job, and we'll sort it through. But I mean, I'm with you wholeheartedly. I wish we could give everybody what there's no one, I don't think, that wants to do that. It's just, we gotta look out from both angles, and that's where I'm at. It's tough.
I understand that, but Mr. Little, are there anybody you can honestly say that's come to you and said, did I make enough?
No, I've heard from one employee where she asked me if there was any way we could give her help in her office. I didn't see that in here. I didn't see it. But she told me she wouldn't take the raise as opposed to getting help. And that struck me. That most people say, give me more money. But when they come to you and say, I need more help, that's when you go, uh-oh. And that's what I've always worried about, is this growth in this community, how fast it's gonna come, and if we can take it. I mean, we had Ryan in here 3 months ago. I gotta have an employee to make it work. It's always an angle, and those are gonna come up. And that's what I really want to talk about in the first meeting, is the addressing the work needs. I'm all about the raises, and I get that, but I really want to know, do we have adequate people in positions to maintain the workload? That's where I'm at. Because that's a tough question too, and to be prepared for the next year. I mean, I don't think the corridor will be built till 24. But everything we need to do is proactive. I know y'all always yelled that, and I'm all about that too. That's his job, to put us in that position to understand where we're at. But when they come to me with, I need help, that's when it really hits me as to, we got to figure out the best way. And that's where I'm at.
Mr. Little, I don't get a lot of that, but that request is in your packet. I know exactly what you're talking about. That request is in here.
How many were there total?
Of new employees?
Yes.
There's a sheet here, don't you, John? Three, not including the sheriff's office.
Well, I ought to go get a lottery ticket then, because I talked to one of them. Oh, I thought it would be a lot higher.
No, sir. Most people are asking for raises.
Okay.
Most people ask for raises.
Yeah,
either for themselves or for their employees.
It took me off guard when they came to me with that. I'm telling you that I wasn't ready for that.
The total personnel request that we received totaled $787,000. That does not include the 75 cent raise that we proposed for our cost of living across the board increase. What was that, fringe and all?
Yeah.
920,000 fringe and all. That was just talking about salary.
On
a total salary increase request.
Okay.
But now, you know, in the sheriff's office, he asked for 4 new road deputies, and of course, there's discussions regarding the SRO, so all of that would be included in his request, plus an evidence technician, a new civilian employee, and so forth. But yeah, most of what we get is not new employee requests, Mr. Little. But yeah, you're right. You probably did hear from one, sir.
We do get them throughout the year.
Yeah, there are some. I mean, you know, and if you recall last year, I asked for two part-timers, and y'all wound up having to hire one during the year to help across the hall in voter registration, and then of course the treasurer had one. But Mr. Little, I can tell you right now, I could use 4 more guys in public works right now. Right now. I mean, we just have that much work to do out there maintaining these roads as we do grow and the amount of traffic increases and so forth. Then we could always use more people out there, and we you know, so.
Is pay a big hindrance to getting those people?
Yeah, of course, because a lot of what you're gonna be hiring out there are labor type folks, and so it's hard, especially right now when the government's paying you $600 to sit home for a week, per week, so it's hard to find people. Everybody's looking for help. But you know, you guys have done some things that does help us, the CDL pay increase that we did, but it's time to revisit even that, Mr. Folks. One of the things you mentioned, I agree. We're getting outbid on those things now, and it's hard to keep up. What I pulled up for you right here on my computer is the actual millage rate calculation that we're allowed to use by Act 388. And we're guessing on this 2.21% right here that's what we'll be allowed to go up. If that's the case, we'll get 2 mills, and what we'll be allowed to do is 4.9 mills capped. By law, that's all we can increase. Keep in mind, and if you don't go up to 0.9 from 1920, well, no, you wouldn't lose that this year. You wouldn't lose that the next year. So we wouldn't be losing any by not increasing taxes this year. But 4.9 is what you're capped at, and that would generate, if you used all of it, $868,000, which means next year what you'd be capped at, if everything remained the same, is approximately 2 mills, which would generate about $356,000. Would be all you could increase the tax revenues by. Now, we hope that fee in lieu and other items continue to increase, and certainly we think they will, or we know they will, because of all the investments that have been made. That's one of the things I want to point out to you, is that we budgeted a roughly $400,000 increase in our fee in lieu revenues for this coming year, simply because of things that came online and that you all approved 3-4 years ago, that's starting to pay off dividends now. So we've increased that based on actual revenues, based on the advice of Mr. Bishop in the auditor's office. So all that's included in the budget. We tried to include as much of those things that are realistic growth numbers that we can put our hands on as possible.
Can you give me an estimate of the 1 cent for property tax relief? Do you see it going up or down? You know what I'm saying? We take that off their taxes. If that is an increase, it's more of an increase off their taxes, correct? Or
Correct,
decrease?
but that's a credit factor that the county auditor and myself.
What is that
utilize.
looking like?
We have not changed it. We didn't change it last year. We didn't change it. I have not proposed to change it this year. I think we're still in. Local option sales tax didn't come in as poorly as we were afraid it would, and we've talked about that before. And I don't.
Can you look at that a lot harder and give me more specific answers?
How do you want? How specific do you want?
If that increase would justify, if we could, let's say it took off $4 off your taxes and we increased your taxes 1 mil, that's about on $100,000. That's about a even split, correct?
What we can
That's
do,
what I want to know.
what we can do, Mr. Little, is we can look at, is it possible for us to give a bigger credit, is what you're asking.
That, right, in case we were to consider raising taxes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Do an offset.
That's fair, and yes, sir.
We need to look at every angle we can before we hit the taxpayers, all I'm saying.
And we'll revisit, and this, like I've told you when I started, this certainly isn't in stone in any way, shape, or form. This is a fluid document. So if I come up next time and tell you our deficit's 900,000, just know something major changed. Now, I don't anticipate that because we think we've got it all covered. But we'll revisit everything in here that we can. But one thing, again, I want to tell you, I'm very, very lenient toward changing our budget figures. For example, fines and fees. We budget $600,000. That's been a consistent number for us for several years. This year, if we hit 300,000, we'll be doing well. If we hit 350, it'll be amazing. Next year, I've got $400,000 in here. I'm not going to put $600,000 in here not knowing what's going to happen with the court system. I just don't think it's smart for us to do that. So, you know, there's some things like that we'll revisit and see if anything if we can find any more money, and we'll certainly look and see if there's any other costs that we can cut. But as you all know, and I'll say it and I'll argue it with anybody, there's not a lot of fluff in our budget. We run lean. And so I think every department head in this county will tell you that there's not a lot of fluff. So there's not a lot of places to look to cut. So we've done what we could do on that. I'm not a popular person when this document comes out because they blame me even though I don't get a vote. But they know that what I recommend, and I tell a lot of them when they're in our office, we're not going to do that. And so anyway, you got it, and y'all look at it. Call me with questions. Is there anything else y'all want us to put together before first reading?
I guess the reason I said what I did is because I'm in a central location. People can walk in, talk to me, people can call me and talk to me. I hear a lot of complaints, and more or less from the police department. And the way the world's turning, you got to agree. If we don't pay them and we don't have police protection, what are we gonna do? But I know the whole county as a whole is lacking on money. But like Mr. Little said, we gotta be able to fund it.
And the 75 cent puts them right in line with everybody else, Mr. Chair. Puts them in the ball game anyway. And I think what's hard with that is that we're not able to recruit those away. I mean, it's hard to recruit those folks. So the 75 cent does that. We'll look.
What did the sheriff say regarding it?
I haven't talked to him about it. Not about the flat 75
We've
cent.
opened the door now for you to talk.
Right, and I intentionally wanted to talk to you guys about it before I talk to anybody else. It's been very select few that I've mentioned that to as to what my recommendation was going to be. But yeah, the world knows at this point, so. But I'm sure he and I can sit down and have a conversation.
No further discussion on the year budget update, any appointments?
Mr. Chairman, my appointment to the Drug and Alcohol Commission, she resigned her position around end of March, or 1st of March, right around that area. Due to, not a conflict by any means, but my wife is the administrator of that Drug and Alcohol Commission. And at this point, I don't feel fair for me to nominate someone for that position to be on that board, being where her position lies. So I'm asking this council to do an at-large appointment for that seat until some other circumstance changes. She retires or I'm no longer in this seat. I think that's only fair to do, to be the easiest way. So in one of the future meetings, I hope that one of y'all can come up with a name at large and we approve to add, because it's a 7-member board, and so they need 7 in case there was any kind of vote conflict. So that's where I'm at. So I'm asking, in the next meetings, couple of meetings or whatever, if one of y'all would you know, express interest, go talk to, or if you have somebody in your district that you want to consider, what, I just wanted to, as a group to do it and me not be a part of it because of that situation. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Little, I understand. See, so, other six need to be having somebody in mind.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Any other appointments? If not, any new or other business? If not, we stand adjourned.